Have you seen the value of the Tesla stock lately? It's been quietly sneaking up on us little by little over the last few weeks, but this week it finally broke 400 and it probably or might continue going. There are a couple of reasons for that, and we're going to talk with Eli Burton of My Tesla Adventure for his Supercharged with Eli Burton segment, and it looks like shorts are contributing to the stock rally, which kind of sounds weird, but there's an explanation, and Eli will definitely let us know what it is. I have my own explanation why the stock is doing so well, but Eli will have the first word, and this is our weekly segment, and of course we have quite a few other contributors on this channel, and of course Tom Maloney, but we also have added a few other ones, which is Sandy Monroe, the CEO of Fairday Future, Karsten Breitfeld, and of course Roger Atkins, and last but not least Rich Rebuild. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, this would be a perfect time and reason to subscribe and hit that bell notification icon as well. All right, well, so this looks pretty good. This is year to date, and we're gonna talk about it. And the funny enough that this stock is getting very close to that 420 mark that caused so much trouble about a year ago. We're going to talk about that as well in a second. Eli is going to join us. Before that, of course, a quick reminder that this video and this channel is sponsored by Byton. Check out their all-electric SUV called Ambite, coming to the US and Europe. Don't forget to reserve yours. It costs absolutely nothing to make a reservation. All you have to do is fill out a quick, simple form, about 60 seconds of your time. So there's a link in the description of this video. If you haven't done it for some reason, go ahead and do it right now to get it out of the way so you are in the queue like the rest of us. All right, so without further ado, let me welcome my guest to the show. Eli, so what's going on with the Tesla stock and why is it doing so well?
Hey, Alex. So why is Tesla stock doing so well? And you must mean aside from the really phenomenal Q3 financials.
I mean, Q3 helped, obviously, for many reasons, but after that, the inertia kind of settles down. But in the last couple of weeks, it's really started to and it broke 400, which again, I didn't even realize that until somebody pointed out to me a few days ago. So that was a pleasant surprise.
That's huge. We haven't seen share prices like this since before Model 3 was going into production. And the bet at the time was that Tesla's fully, end-to-end 99% automated Model 3 assembly line was going to be able to pump out 10,000 cars per week and minimal human intervention. And that's the last time we saw share prices like this. So it's been a long road back here. And what's funny is although we got a great stock price bump after the Q3 earnings, really big, we're seeing substantial increases in stock price this past week and a half. And it's coming from a very unlikely source, and that's short sellers.
Okay, so this is where it confuses me because short sellers are the ones that are, rooting against the stock. They're betting against the stock. So how is it possible that they're contributing to the rally that's essentially screwing them over?
So this is something that actually, funny enough, did hit public sphere a little bit because Mark Cuban actually in one of his interviews said that, Elon should probably let go a little bit, like given such a hard time about the short sellers, because all that means is that there's a lot of people out there who in the future have to buy your stock. Well, now today, that's exactly what's happening. So basically short sellers are staking claim to stock at a certain share, making a bet that it's going to go down. And if it goes down, they make a profit between the difference at which they bought their option and when they rebuy to replace those shares. So what's happening right now is the stock has gone up a bunch. So now short sellers are having to cover their positions, causing them to have to buy shares on the open market to cover their positions. And they're starting to do it more en masse. And that's causing the stock market to drive up the share price. Because basically the way share price works, right, is if there's more buyers than sellers, that causes the price to go up. And short sellers are currently driving the surge. In fact, so looking at the current year to date data, there is 46% less short selling on the stock than there was at the beginning of 2019.
Well, that's and so which means that people believe that this company is going to do well, and there's less people believe it's going to fail and go bankrupt, because that's been a thing for a while, right? Even now I hear people go like, "Wow, I would buy a Tesla, but they're going to go belly up tomorrow." That's really turning around now.
Well, here's the thing with short sellers. It doesn't really necessarily matter where they actually believe that's the case. All they have to do is have the stock price go down and convince people that's going to be the case. Now, earlier this year, Tesla was in a tight spot and there was concerns about their liquidity and cash on hand. But I would say it was very much a narrative these people were pushing because there was an opportunity to make money on the stock. And for a while there was. But anybody who didn't exit it, who's covering now, is losing lots of money.
All right. So now, by the way, I don't even understand why it's legal to do this because essentially I think the stock market should be for the companies and corporations that are part of our country's stock exchange and essentially our success. This is for them to succeed, and rooting against this is sort of like the rooting against the whole concept of essentially capitalism. So I'm not quite understand why that even exists.
I actually completely agree with you. For me, I think the net impact to the market of short selling is a negative because basically there's nothing illegal about shorting a stock and then going on television everywhere and using your influence trying to convince people the stock is bad to drive down the share price. That is not illegal. That is not considered stock manipulation. And that's where there's huge opportunities for some of these people that have a lot of influence on Wall Street. They'll short stock, convince people the stock's bad, drive the stock down, cash out, go away, and then move on their merry way. But the counter side to that argument is there is some argument that one of the values of short selling incentivizes people to look for fraud in companies because if you can detect them, you can make a ton of money. And there is some argument to be made that short sellers actually help expose Enron because some people put a lot of scrutiny in the company because there's money to be made on companies' failure, which causes more attention to be paid to where there might be and more investigation to be paid where there might be potential negatives. And there's definitely an argument to be made there, but I think the net to the economy is bad.
I totally agree. And, we should mention that Tesla stock is not just the most shorted stock on, I believe, New York Stock Exchange, but I think it is by almost more than double at the very least to the second most shorted stock. I mean, obviously that might not be the case soon. Why do you think that is? I mean, why do people are rooting? I feel like Tesla is the Apple of automotive industry, and I don't remember people rooting against Apple so much as they're rooting against Tesla. Why do you think so many people have problems against with Tesla?
At its peak, it was the most shorted stock in history, in U.S. stock market history. And that's by percentage of shares versus market capitalization. So I think there's a number of factors that go into that. One, they were going into an industry that everybody said couldn't happen, right? Nobody said smartphones couldn't happen the same way people said electric cars couldn't happen, right? Because the idea of an iPhone, nobody had the idea of an iPhone until an iPhone existed. People have had the idea of electric cars for a long time, and they said it was stupid, it was dumb, it would never work. And there's a huge industry behind benefiting electric cars not working, right? The legacy auto manufacturers, the oil industry. And then there's also opportunists in the market who say that, you know what, there's a great opportunity for us to use fear, called FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and that it was a stock that could be very well easily manipulated using the media. And unfortunately, some of the things that Elon would do and respond and how it would handle it further fed into that. So I don't even necessarily believe that some of these people that were big shorting the company didn't believe in its long-term success, but they believed that there was downward pressure they could put on the stock to produce profits.
All right. Well, this brings me to something else, which I listen. I don't butt into this whole market analysis and stuff like that. I'm not a market analyst, but what I really have noticed that the stock price did not necessarily follow, the sales, the profits, the health of the company or whatever. What it followed is, I would even say, mental state of Elon Musk. And as I mentioned, this whole thing where he was just really being rebellious and just flat out sometimes silly and stupid on Twitter, the stock was, really kind of following this kind of a down spiral that he had as a person, as a CEO. But lately, and we've done video together about it, Elon has literally turned himself around. Not only he has stopped doing silly things, but he started acting like a real CEO. He started to under-promising and over-delivering. He started being very calm and very cautious. Instead of crapping on other manufacturers creating electric cars, he started praising them. This is like a brand new Elon Musk, which really is the original Elon Musk. And I think the stock reacted to that. Is it just my fantasy, or is this is there some truth to that as well?
I mean, we got a great culmination that at the same time, Elon really started acting like more like a corporate executive, like we'd expect, switched his strategy from over promising and under delivering to under promising, over delivering, or just not making any promises at all. So when the announcements came out, they were great news and a bump for the stock. So we had the culmination of that and Tesla hitting a critical mass where they were able to return to profitability. And I think it's the combination of everything combined. And again, Elon's change in behavior definitely played a role. Would it be as strong if they were still over promising, under delivering? No, definitely. But it also happened on the backdrop that they turned profits in a quarter that no one expected they would turn a profit. So when I say no one, I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar, Alex, but your listeners probably are with ARK Invest. They're a venture capital fund that is very strong, long on Tesla. They are like, well, they get covered a lot in the media because they're one of the entities that has a lot of money on Tesla. They're betting big on them, and they're betting big on autonomy. ARK Invest actually sold a pretty substantial stake of their holdings just before the Q3 earnings, like the day before, 2 days before. Even ARK Invest clearly didn't seem confident that Tesla was going to pull off the profits that they did. And ARK Invest is one of their biggest cheerleaders and a group that has a lot of money invested. So that was a huge shock and a really important piece of this turning point. But I think Elon's behavior change and, being more reserved and holding back information that's going to affect the stock and, doing some of those more, maybe say less managed things has definitely helped.
No, and I agree, and I'm surprised the stock went up this fast, but at the same time, honestly, it's kind of overdue. I think the news that we've been hearing throughout the entire year and at the end of the last year, even, I think for any other company, I would have assumed the stock would have already been much quite higher, and I would even suggest that Elon was kind of keeping it down. So what do you think is next? Do you think now the 2020 for Tesla is going to be the year of execution, and they're going to be judged by pretty much like any other manufacturer, the deliveries or the profits, they go in production with a Model Y and a semi truck. Obviously Cybertruck announcement is probably going to kind of evolve. Do you think we're kind of be going back to earth here rather than living off of hype and dreams and hopes?
So I do got to agree with you, first of all, that I think the stock price has been artificially held down because tech companies are notoriously highly valuated based upon growth and future technology. And looking at Tesla's stock curve, the fact that they got their stock price dragged down so much by individual quarters and a company that's all about betting on future tech was kind of insane, especially with how much infrastructure and manufacturing they've got and the lead they have on EVs. The stock price really didn't make sense. I think for 2020, it is going to be looking to see on Tesla starting to deliver on all the vehicles that they promised, right? It's no longer about what's the next car they're going to release. It's now about delivering on the 4 cars that have been already announced and unveiled that are now it's time to start delivering.
If you ask me, there are 3 sort of, I'd say 2 hidden treasures that I think people don't realize as a big potential, or at least maybe give up on them. And one that I think there's still pretty good expectation and hype over it. And in my case, one is obviously producing cars, Model 3 and Model Y in China. It is humongous, market. Tesla's already been selling over $1 billion worth of cars there.
By the way, that when I said the 4 cars, that was the 4th I was referring to. That's the Model 3 in China. That is it. That is so significant. That's just as significant as them unveiling a new product.
I agree. Well, they're just going to be making many more of those in a market that really wants them. But the 4th one is obviously is Model Y. But to me, it's also semi-truck because that's a very profitable business. But the other 2 is the solar products. Elon mentioned that solar projects are finally the solar roof. They're going to be ramping it up. We haven't heard as much about it, but I've from the day when they acquired the Solar City, I thought that's genius. They can be a bigger energy company than their car company. So I think the next year 2020 is going to bring them a lot of revenues and hope and hype from that part of the company. But I also think the actual software, and this is where I think the hidden treasure of all future of electric cars is where you sell digital products like Autopilot. I mean, you mentioned it to me last time that they've sold how much of Autopilot upgrades so far?
Oh, we're in the billions of dollars. But also, too, well, here's what they just did. Speaking of selling software, they just released they just made an announcement that if you have a all-wheel drive Model 3, non-performance, just all-wheel drive, for $2,000, you can improve your 0 to 60 from 4.4 seconds to 3.9. That is a steal. For $2,000, if you, again, for people who aren't like car people, people will easily spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on upgrade parts and tuning their car to get a gas car to increase 0 to 60 by a half a second. Tesla can do it like that via software update. And just as fast as they can push that software update, they can funnel cash into their bank account. And they're doing that right now.
Yeah, and we're talking about, okay, autopilot is definitely huge, right? And especially if they're charging $7,000 right now, these upgrades of $2,000 and a few other that are coming up. But we can also be talking about, well, they just started charging for internet. We just made a video last week about that, right? That's coming in.
And in a week from now, we're going to be talking about street level autopilot. And again, I can't share any details because one of my friends in the early access program got this quickly. Wow. The videos we're going to be showing in a couple weeks is going to blow people's mind, and it's going to give them a reason why they can raise the price of autopilot or full self-driving again.
Right. But I'm just saying beyond that, right? Like they start charging for the internet, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to start charging a little bit more in the future for profit. They've started charging, I believe it was last year, for superchargers, right? Because that is something that's income, or at least offsetting some of the expenses. They can start charging for streaming services and gaming services and the in-store purchases for some apps that are coming up. I mean, digital product sales for Tesla may just start really killing it, and the profits will start pouring in out of thin air, essentially. So
totally, they have a software as a service revenue stream that they haven't even begun to build. They've barely even built I mean, they've obviously got the broader platform, which is the car, but the actual like app store platform, they haven't even touched the surface of what's possible and what's coming and their ability to sell software. And again, you guys got to think about this too. Apple makes a ton of money off their app store, but they get a cut from every app sold, right? All these microtransactions, they're getting a cut. Where the world's heading with autonomy, Tesla's going to have the same thing. And that's going to produce untold amounts of revenue. And it's much more different than a phone that for $1,000, I could go grab an Android and switch over to the Google platform if I wanted. People do not switch car brands the same way. Brand loyalty with Tesla is exceptionally high. And they've got like a 90% brand loyalty, which is insane. So their profitability going forward and their profitability on software is far beyond what most people and most market analysts are even thinking about. And you know that to be the case because they're always talking about the deliveries, right? Like they're talking about how many cars did they deliver.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. They're not calculating that delivering a car is not the end of the revenues. As a matter of fact, the revenues they can still collect from that car, is pretty much at zero cost. I mean, this is just software engineers' salaries at this point. So it is amazing. I really am excited about what's happening. I always thought that, again, not a stock market guy. I don't own Tesla stock anymore. I always in the very beginning thought it was like $800, $900 stock, years to come in the future. And it looks like, by the way, looking at the chart, I don't know if people even like remember this, but let me put the chart over here on the screen. But look, in June, I believe it was under $200. So essentially it's more than doubled in about, 6 months, which is insane and awesome because that's how low they went at some point. And now all of a sudden people are finally figuring this out. And I mean, I'm excited. I mean, obviously this is the health of the company. This is their, this is their finances, obviously, that are just got stronger. And obviously Elon got richer, which I don't have a problem with at all.
No, not at all. And guys, like even people who aren't rooting for Tesla but believe in EVs, Tesla being wildly successful is the best thing that can happen for the EV movement. Because the more successful Tesla is at this, the bigger force, the more pressure it puts on legacy auto manufacturers to get into this game. It was one thing for them to dismiss it why Tesla wasn't profitable. But as Tesla becomes profitable, becomes more and more profitable, they will be dragging everyone else by their shirt collar into that world because at some point these guys are going to start realizing that, oh my God, if we don't start rushing quickly, we may not have a future.
Right. And also the argument that, hey, listen, Tesla can't take, all of these markets from us because they can only make so many cars. Well, they're making more and more, and they just announced they're going to build another factory in Europe. So at some point, they can take the real business from these companies, and as they have been. So
they're killing BMW. BMW, what is it? The
Mercedes.
M3 is getting destroyed by Model 3. And now Tesla's going to open up a factory, a gigafactory in Germany, and be able to manufacture cars and sell them to that market there, which, by the way, is going to bring down cost of production, which Tesla could use to increase their margin on those sales, and or they could sell those cars at a lower price and further undercut that market. So yeah, if people aren't feeling the pain already, they're going to be feeling it in a very large way.
Yeah, I was just in Frankfurt in September, and the amount of German cars on the streets is overwhelming. I just thought, oh my God, I'm walking through rich neighborhoods. BMWs, Mercedes is there, but it was a regular neighborhood. It was just, you know, their Fords and Chevys, and I only saw like 2 Teslas in the entire city, as at least I was walking around. So I'm hoping next time I'm there, there will be more. So listen, I'm excited. Good for them, you know, and you know, let's. I think everyone's waiting for that 420 mark to be hit, because that would be kind of ironic, right? All right, well, listen, it's great to chat with you about this, and now you got a couple interesting things going on this week. This is not the first show you're on. You actually managed to squeeze into another very interesting segment. Tell us about that. We don't have video of it, unfortunately, but why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so my excitement this morning was waking up and opening up the stock app on my iPhone and hitting on Tesla to see what the share price was. And the second article down below the share price had my face on it, because CNBC did a piece on these 6 people pre-ordered the Cybertruck, and here's why. So I was one of the 6 people they interviewed to tell my story about how I went from seeing the Cybertruck first on stage and totally hating it to 5 days later ordering one. So I got to go on the show and talk about, you know, my experience with that, my take on the car, why I ordered it. And I got to kind of share the experience too of why Tesla is so exciting and why driving a Tesla is so much different than every other car. So yeah, it was great. It was great to be on. And for everybody who thinks the media never has anything but bad things to say about Tesla, this piece was certainly not the case.
Yeah. And I thought the others also in a segment were have very interesting different angles and perspectives, and the reasons they reserve the Cybertruck were all different. But another thing that I'm also excited is about that now I have not just one, but 2, you know, copies. Well, they're 2 different. What do you call them?
Episodes
of the Starman, and the second one is the Big Ol' Strikes Back. I got it personally delivered, and what I was really surprised by is that it is twice as thick and twice as heavy as the first one, because it's just got more awesome stuff with the same. I'm not even a comic books guy, and I'm like, whoa, this is some awesome stuff, great graphics and everything. So, and you've been selling these like pancakes for the holidays as well, and they can be signed and they can be bundled. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so actually there's a special Christmas or holiday bundle where you can get both episode 1 and episode 2 signed at a discount at theadventuresofstarman.com. So go check that out if you don't have it out already. But Big Oil Strikes Back. If you're part of the EV community, part of the Tesla community, this story was made for you. I mean, it really highlights this existential fight between Big Oil and Tesla and the broader clean energy movement, where Big Oil wants to stop progress to protect their profits. And, you know, Elon and these other movers in the energy space want to progress forward. And there's this awesome fight that involves Starman and space and a bunch of other things I'm not going to tell you about because that would be spoilers.
Yes. All right. Well, we have a link to that in the description of this video, so you guys go ahead and it makes a great present. Now, I'm going to go ahead and still wait for my signed copy, but I'm excited to just have a copy at this point. It was personally delivered as we had coffee the other day, so that was fun. All right, listen. Great hanging out with you. I'm sure we'll do another video on this relatively soon because the stock is probably even going to go like, you know, skyrocket, or maybe some other turbulent times will happen. I'm sure we'll revisit that in the future. So I will see you next week.
Sounds great, Alex. Thanks for having me.
All right, of course. All right, guys, just like I said, don't forget to check Eli's links in the description of this video. You know, let me know in the comment section if you own the stock, if you don't own the stock. Let me know if what your thoughts are, and if so, are you just about to buy more? Are you just about to sell? What's your stockbroker is telling you? This is I'm feeling like Tesla is almost going mainstream, right? Because now even the biggest Tesla haters and Tesla shorts are now kind of realizing that this company is for real. Something that I bet on in 2012. So I'm glad to this is really amazing. So I'm looking forward to your comments. Of course, thank you to those of you who watch me live on Patreon. If you want to contribute to this channel and have better access to the behind the scenes stuff, go to patreon.com/E4Electric. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon. Have you hit that one yet? Don't forget, I am looking forward to your comments. You can submit it right here in the comment section. And other than that, see you guys next time. And remember to stay charged.